Hey everybody, Kirby White here with Alt F11, here to do part 2 of the XLOOKUP tutorial. I recommend you watch part 1 if you haven't seen it yet. There's a link to that down below. Because in this video, I'm going to talk about the optional arguments. The first one that we're going to talk about is if not found, which is an easy way of returning a text value that's user-friendly if XLOOKUP isn't able to find the value that you've asked it to look for. Match mode has a few different settings, but that's where you tell it to look for an exact match, or maybe the next closest match that's smaller, or the next closest match that's larger. Search mode is where you tell it to look from the top down in your range, or to look from the bottom up. And I recommend that you check out the help page in the documentation for XLOOKUP, because it's got a lot of really handy information about match mode and search mode, which I'm not going to talk about as much in this video. So let's start by imagining that we are looking for a value, but unbeknownst to us, there's a typo in it. And XLOOKUP is not able to find this value in our business lines where we've asked it to look for it. So it returns a hashtag NA, which is coincidentally exactly what a VLOOKUP would have returned for us. So here's a VLOOKUP doing the same thing that I just hid off to the side. And the way I used to solve this was with an if-error function. So I would wrap the VLOOKUP function in an if-error and maybe return value not found if the VLOOKUP came back with an error. And that was totally fine, but it required you to know how to do nested functions and know that if-error even exists. XLOOKUP has solved that by making it an optional argument. So when we when we bring up the fourth argument with another comma, we can just enter value not found right in the XLOOKUP function, and that's going to return that same thing. So I'll actually get rid of this VLOOKUP now. And you'll see that this is very user-friendly. It's just saying that it can't find it. And of course, I would recommend using drop-down lists that actually don't allow you to enter typos, but that's really outside the scope of this. Let's talk about the fifth argument real quick though, and that's the match mode. So its default is to look for an exact match, and that's why it couldn't find maintenance. But if we change it to maybe exact match or next smaller item, you'll see that that's got a code of -1. If we do that, it actually does return the information that we're looking for. Now, I haven't played around with this enough to know exactly when that will work and when it will not, because just in my own experimenting, if we change it to exact match or larger, the code of 1, if we enter that, it does return a value, which could be problematic because you think it's working correctly, but it's actually the new line, or the new cars business line in here. So that's not doing what we want, even though it looks like it is. So I advise caution with that if you're using text data. If you're looking for something numeric, I have no reason to think that it's not going to work exactly the way that you expect. It'll just return it'll look for the next closest value if it doesn't find an exact match. So anyway, that's a little bit on the first two optional arguments of XLOOKUP. I hope that's helpful. I'll see you next time.